Can you tell us more about AniChess and what makes it different from traditional chess?
Yeah, so AniChess is a chess-inspired strategy game that really takes the ethos of classic chess and adds a new spell layer on top of it, right? So an example of a spell layer would be, let's say we could move a pawn like a queen for one turn, or we make a certain piece invisible for a turn, or we swap pieces with an opponent. So these spell layers basically add a new dynamic to the way people think about classic chess.
You mentioned before that chess is like, it's a done game. Like, you can memorize all the moves. So like this kind of changes the game a bit, right?
Correct. So I think chess, we all know it as a game that already has been solved, right? And so one of the reasons why we wanted to introduce the spell layer is one, to introduce a more dynamic, game, but two is also to make it a little bit more difficult for people to cheat using solvers, right? Because imagine, spells that I just mentioned just now where, a piece goes invisible. You now then start getting into poker territory where it becomes mind game, right? So if I make a piece invisible, am I going to be making the next most logical move, or am I going to bluff you, right? And so I think with that, it also makes the game a lot more difficult to leverage solvers to play against components.
So why put this in the blockchain? What's the whole point?
Yeah, so I think there's a few layers to why we want to build on chain. I think one is fundamentally because we're part of the Animoca brands company, we're really for digital property rights, and really that at the most simplest form just means that we want to enable players to really have true ownership over the digital items, right? So that's the most surface level layer. I think if you go, one step deeper, it is really around how do you enable a wider community of people to build on top of a game, right? And really leverage, the effects of, having an open and permissionless infrastructure, right? We want to enable players to build on top of the game without losing the network effects, right? Because some of the most famous games that, we see, Counter-Strike, were a result of modding, right? But in the traditional sense, when you mod games, you lose the network effect because you have to basically replicate a new network, a new system out. But within Web3, because everything is open and permissionless, we allow for that iteration and composability without losing the network effects.
Can you tell us more about where people can play this game today? Can they download it? Can they
yeah,
on the web?
So right now our game launched 2 weeks ago. It is available on the browser. So if you just go to www.anichess.com, you're able to play for free and enjoy basically the very initial version.
All right.